Okay, so my name is Leigh, and I lead Smart Experience Transport. And I want to start by making you think just for a moment about who your political heroes are. Perhaps it's Winston Churchill, maybe Emily Pankhurst, Byron Bevan, and I think there's probably no one in this room who is young enough, unfortunately, not to know that he is why we have an NHS. Rudiger, perhaps, or maybe John F. Kennedy. And now think to yourself, why is it that we remember these people? Why are they political heroes? And it's not because they managed to think of 20 reasons why not to do something. They didn't listen to the people all around them who told them that something was impossible, too difficult, too expensive. What they did is they surrounded themselves by people who could make it happen, who believed that it was possible, and they made it happen. And if the sound system worked, we'd have some sound. Sorry. Okay, well that's the first technical failure. Sorry about that. Anyway, if anyone remembers the speech, John F. Kennedy said in announcing the moon program, and it was a rousing speech. And it says, "We choose to do these things to go to the moon and other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organise and measure the best of our energies and skills." So, what are we trying to achieve with the city deal? And the key is something called modal shift. The idea is to get people who drive to walk more, cycle more, use the train more, use the bus more. It's all about modal shift. We get caught up in talking about bus journey times and punctuality of buses and the widths of cycle lanes and so on. But actually, we have to keep in mind all along that everything we do and everything we design is with one purpose, and it is to encourage more people to use sustainable transport. Now, this is just a list of some areas that I would say are missing from the tranche 1 of the city deal. The tranche 1 is the first 5 years, £100 billion. But I'm just going to focus on one of these areas, and it's travel hubs. Now, to most of you, a travel hub would probably be better just explained as a park and ride. You know what a park and ride is, and that's what we'll start with. This is what we have at the moment. We have 5 park and rides, and they're distributed around the edge of the city. And they serve the city pretty well. In fact, when they were first introduced, they were really pioneering. There were lots of skeptics. I think even I was skeptical that people would want to get out of their car and get into a bus. But the reality is that the city centre car parks were full. So people didn't feel they had a choice. And they did use the buses, and it's been very successful. And there are some roads that don't have park and rides. And you'll notice when we look at the map, 3 roads in particular, Huntingdon Road, Histon Road, Barton Road, there is no park and ride on those roads. So you either have to go around on the M11 or the A14 to reach a park and ride. And so it would seem sensible to put park and rides on those roads. And in fact, the city deal has plans to build more park and rides. It plans to build one at what's called Planning Mulch Roundabout, which is where the A428 joins the A30 into Cambridge. They want to move the Trumpington Park and Ride to the other side of the M11 to Hawkston. So that's actually not a new one, this is relocated. And the Newmarket Road 1, which is here, is moving out to probably the other side of Airport Way. But the only new one there is a suggestion for either a park and ride or a park and cycle on Barton Road, so that's a potentially new one too. But these 2 are the only new ones, the other 2 are relocated. The black circles indicate the new railway station. So this is the current central station, this is the one that's going to open in May next year, and this one down here is the one we hope to see opening in Addenbrooks. At the moment, in 2019 seems an unlikely target date. And that will change the accessibility of the city quite significantly. But I don't think it'll actually change it in the ways that it needs to. And you'll notice in particular, Huntingdon Road, the A14, still has no park and ride. And there's a lot of concern about putting a park and ride at somewhere like Barton, because there's already a lot of traffic that comes through Comberton, Toft, and Barton. Those roads are already very heavily congested, so sort of attracting more traffic there could be detrimental. And actually, more importantly, there are some real hidden costs in park and ride. And for those of you who think that park and ride is the solution, we just need to build more of them, you need to think really carefully about the impact that it has. And the first one is that it competes with the regular bus services. If you, let's say you live in Cambourne, and let's say there's a park and ride on the Manningham Ultra roundabout. Now you have a choice. You can either catch the City 4 and get that bus all the way into the city, or to Drummond Street, or you can drive to the park and ride at that roundabout. Now the chances are that it will be cheaper for you, certainly if you're taking your family, to use the park and ride. And probably you'll have a better bus service from there. It'll be more frequent and it will run from earlier until later. So I would say that most people who live in Cambourne will think, well, I won't bother with the bus, I'll use the park and ride. And that will undermine the viability of the bus service. The bus service that the city wants to build a new busway for, £142 million busway. Although that does include the cost of the park and ride, to be honest. But another really important factor is that park and ride only serves people who have a car. Now, not only does not everybody have a car, people either can't drive, can't afford a car. 40% of the poorest quintile, that's the poorest 20% of the population in Cambridgeshire, do not own a car. So park and ride is not a way for the poorest people to get into Cambridge to work. So they need a bus service. And if the park and ride undermines the bus service, so it doesn't start early enough for them to get in, or it doesn't run late enough for them to get home at the end of the day, it's not an option for them. And it also, as I said about Barton Road, it causes localised congestion because it attracts traffic from a wide radius into one spot. And you see this at the Milton interchange. That traffic junction is heavily congested because you have people doing a whole mix of traffic journeys. They're either joining the A14, they're coming off the A14, they're going to the Science Park, and a significant chunk of it is also going in and out of the park and ride. So what we really want to see is fewer park and rides, in fact. And there are 3 locations where we really need a true park and ride, i.e. a large car park that is designed to catch people who want to drive to the city and then catch the bus for the last section of the way. And so we would suggest closing Milton Road, Abraham Road, Manningham Road, moving, the Hawkston Road one's fine, I don't really see a need to relocate that. Move the Newmarket Road one out to the A14 junction at Quay, Stoke-on-Quay. And we definitely need one at the Girton interchange. At the moment there's no way of having one at the Girton interchange because you can't get off the A428 and you couldn't get off the A14 to join it. So it needs new connections at that junction. And this is what we'd end up with. So we'd have just those 3 park and rides, and they're all 3 are located right next to a strategic road. So the M11, the A14, the A428. And we've got the 3 railway stations we expect to have by 2020. And we've also got one more, which I've added in here, which is between Cherry Hinton and Fulbourn. That seems to be an absolutely ideal location to put a train station. There's already a railway line there, and it's a catchment of about 20,000 homes that would be within easy walking and cycling distance of that. And once you have the Allenbrook station, you actually could have direct trains that are coming from Soham, let's say, if we had a station put in there as well, from Newmarket, Bury St Edmunds, via Fulbourn, through the city centre station, down to Allenbrooks. That would take thousands of cars off the road. You'll notice there's also, I've marked in this blue circle here, and that's what I describe as a travel hub, and I'll explain what the difference is. So this map is just showing in a bit more, more extensively, more of South Cambridgeshire, how we have the three park and rides, and then further out in places like Cambourne we'd have a big, and it would be approaching a park and ride. This would be a travel hub. We already have one along Stanton, And it's actually a well-designed site, and it's very well used. And it has a nice building on it, and it has shelters. It's, this is a high-class piece of design. It has a waiting room. It's an eco. It has a lot of eco credentials to the building. It even has an exhibition space. This is what the basis of a community hub, a travel hub, would be for a community outside of Cambridge. And I'll come into a bit more detail about travel hubs in a moment. But I just want to bring us to the key question about what makes for a better bus journey. There's a lot about better bus journeys. And they're focused on two things in particular: punctuality and journey time. They talk about reliability, and that's slightly confusing because in the rail industry, reliability means cancellations, whether a train runs or not. And it is an important distinction between whether the bus is cancelled or whether it's just late. And if you ask people who use the bus regularly, particularly, these will be high priorities for them. Punctuality and journey time is really important to them. But if you ask people who don't use the bus, or maybe people who used to use the bus, those don't tend to be the highest priority for them. They will often talk about cancellation of buses as being a real problem, particularly if it's the last bus home in the day. What do? You have to call up a friend, call a taxi. You're not going to do that more than once or twice, if you have another option. But I want to focus on two other things: the frequency of the service and access and interchanging, because both of those have a very material impact on journey time. Because the city deal is focused on timetable journey time, how long it takes the bus to get from, say, Cambourne, in this case to Grange Road, or from, say, Cottenham to Drummond Street. But that's not the time that really matters to people. If you're catching the bus to get from home to work, it's the whole journey that matters. It's the time it takes you to get to the bus stop at the beginning. It's the time it takes you to maybe change bus partway in the journey, and then the time to get from the end of the journey to where you work or where you want to get to. So we need to be thinking about the whole journey. This is where the interchanging, the access and interchanging is really, really important, because that adds to the time of the journey, and also it adds to the convenience and the pleasantness of the journey. If you have to stand in the rain, without a shelter, in the cold, waiting to change a bus, you're not going to want to do that very often. At least when you're catching a bus, you can time when you arrive so that you don't have to stand around for too long, assuming the bus is on time. So just thinking a bit more about these points. Let's just take one particular journey, the City 8. And this is the bus that goes from Cottenham. And you'll notice that when it arrives at Histon, it takes a very circuitous route. And in fact, it takes 15 minutes to get from the top of Histon to the bottom of Impington. There are 13 stops on that route. It's only 2.5 kilometres, 2,500 metres from the topmost point, the northernmost point of Histon, to the bottom of Impington. It seems madness that if you want to increase, if you want to reduce the journey time, then really a simple way to do that is just to make the bus route more direct. And in fact, you could probably do it with just 3 stops. And the circles indicates, the inner circle indicates a comfortable 5-minute walk, and the wider circle a comfortable 10-minute walk. And that would work. But one of the reasons it probably wouldn't work at the moment is because there aren't stops where 20 people can stand comfortably, because they'll be standing on the edge of on a pavement on the edge of a road. So actually, we need stops that where people can comfortably wait for a bus. Now we would say that these were express bus stops, and and they would be built with that sort of capacity in mind. But the southernmost one of these stops is a special one because it's actually where the guided busway intersects with the route of the City 8, and so it's actually an interchange point. And this is a picture of that point where the two roads intersect. Now actually the bus, if you were to interchange here, you would carry on the bus about 100 metres past this point, then you'd have to walk back and then walk along to the guided bus stop. But I see here a great opportunity to create a good interchange, somewhere that you have a shelter, perhaps in the morning you have a kiosk selling coffee. This could be nicely landscaped. And in fact, if we were really ambitious, we could look at the whole area, because in that space we have a pub, and there's a little garden, there's a little beer garden at the end here, and there's a large car park here. And the road that runs behind it is actually cut off, it's blocked off at the end up here. So it's only an access road. So actually, if we were really imaginative, we could close this bit of road, keep the cycle route through there, reroute the road through the top of the car park, do a deal with the pub to exchange that bit of land with some land reclaimed from the road behind, and then we could swap with the garden here, which could be relocated at the back. And then that means we claim this quite large area of land here to create a really useful community asset, somewhere where you can go and catch a bus, you can change bus, so if you're arriving in, and it's perfectly considerable. You come in on the bus from Cottenham, you get off the bus here, and you change to the guided bus that takes you to the Science Park or to Cambridge North Station. I mean, it's an obvious journey to want to make. So therefore, having an interchange here that's comfortable, pleasant, that's connected with a pub, so you can meet people there after work. That's the sort of imaginative approach that we need in order to make bus travel enjoyable and attractive. And I'm just going to blow your mind a bit, because when you arrive in the city centre, continuing the theme of interchanging, you arrive at Drummer Street. And there are 26 bays distributed around all the streets. It can be 300 metres to walk from one bay to another. There's no good central information point to know where the bus is that you're going to catch it from. I mean, there's a kiosk, I don't know if anyone's ever tried to use it. It gives you it's a web browser that gives you access to the County Council bus timetable website. Try using that in a hurry. And there is no intuitive logic to the way the buses are organised. So you've really got to know what you're doing before you arrive there. And the thing that, an idea that was inspired by Groningen, in fact, is that for express buses, and I treat express buses as the buses that are coming over from South Cambridgeshire, distinct from city buses, which are serving the city community. The express buses come in on all the radial routes, but rather than all coming into the city centre, and as Colin was talking about, we could be looking at 230 buses an hour, 250 buses an hour or so, which clearly is beyond the capacity of Drummer Street. So why not bring them all into the inner ring road and have them circulate around the inner ring road and then go back out on the original radial route? Now the big advantage of this is it means that every bus passes the same point on the inner ring road. So if you came in on that bus from Cottenham, you could change at any point on that inner ring road to a bus to any other destination, whether it be Addenbrooke's or Marshall's or any other part of the city centre. And this effectively gives you a distributed bus station where the intuitive logic is you get off one bus and then you just wait more or less at that same spot for the bus that you need to go to your final destination to roll by, and that should be within just a few minutes. That makes it really simple. It also makes it a lot more useful for people in the city. And one of the big complaints about the bus services is that if you live in the city, you rarely want to go to the city to Drummer Street. You actually want to go to somewhere else in the city, and that will inevitably mean 2 journeys. And it will typically take maybe 40 minutes, and usually about the same sort of time as it would take to walk if you can. This would give you a very quick way of getting to another part of the city, to be within walking or cycling distance of pretty much anywhere. And so I conclude, remember that everything that we are trying to do with transport in the region is about modal shift. It's not about bus journey times, it's not about bus punctuality, it's not about cycle lanes, it's about making a sustainable transport attractive and viable and convenient for more people, as many people as possible. And that, we must never lose sight of that. Don't think that park and ride is the solution. I hope I've explained to you some of the reasons why not. Actually, we have to be smarter about it, and that means building park and ride for a very specific purpose. That's for intercepting people who are coming from outside South Cambridgeshire, people who are coming a fair distance, and therefore who aren't going to sort of bail out, as the term is, a long way out from the city. They'll want to come as close as possible. But for South Cambridgeshire, that will be best served by a really good, comprehensive network of express bus services that start early in the morning, run till late at night, and run at a frequency, ideally, of at least 4 an hour, so you never have to wait more than 15 minutes. We need to be talking to the people who aren't using the buses. If we want to improve the bus services, let's not be talking to the people who already use them, because they have particular requirements, which is essentially to have the bus run faster and to run more reliably. That's not answering the question that the rest of us have who don't use the bus on a regular basis, which is, how do I get a bus from where I need it to where I need it? And what are the factors that are important for me to make me use the bus more? And part of that is focusing on interchanging, because public transport can never provide a single vehicle for everybody from their home or from where they start to every destination that they want to get to. There will never be bus services from Cottenham that serve every part of the city. We have to accept that designing good public transport means designing good interchange, and that interchanges. And that's what we take that for granted when we go to London. Nobody expects to be able to get on one tube line and get to a destination. You have to change. And because the signage is clear and it's really easy to understand how you do it, that's what everybody does. And I hope I've shown you an example, which February Phillips, I'm sure, will elaborate on later, about the need to use visionary designers in order to really capitalise on the opportunities that transport gives us. Every transport hub, every interchange is an opportunity to create something of value and use to the community. And it's not just a functional thing. It needs to be much more than that. And finally, have ambition. Have ambition for Greater Cambridge, because that's what we really need. And if anyone comes up to you and says, all we need to do is, just remember this very useful retort from Ben Goldacre. I think you'll find it's a little bit more complicated than that. Thank you.